Hello there. They call me Mr. E. Now, have you ever wondered why we have this natural instinct of distrust for politicians? Like this voice that cries out from within us when you hear that a politician has done something wrong or gone back on their word or something completely typical like that. It's such a strange concept that we would elect people to act in our interests, but we really have no belief that they will have the capacity to do that anyway. Where does this absurd reality come from? And why do we continue to partake in a system that is corrupted? One word: privilege.
My name is Mystery. For reasons unknown, I have been thrown back into the past almost 100 years, and this is my story.
We live in a democracy. Let's just check that astounding assumption, shall we? Democracy comes from the Greek words demos, being the common people, and kratos, meaning strength, or in this case, rule. For short, rule by the people. We don't live in a society that has this system though. We have representative government, being ruled by way of elected officials. The Greeks have a word for that too: oligarchy. Oligos meaning few or little, and archia meaning to rule. So rule by a few. That is the most appropriate description for the system we live in. Despite whether we elect our rulers or not, it's still ruled by a few. Elections don't make something a democracy. Well, then why have the electoral system then? People say, oh, the modern world is too expansive and complex, and so we need elected representation to make it all work. But what if I told you the system came first and was then labelled a democracy to sell it to people? Now, during the age of revolutions, when feudalism ended and monarchies came crashing down, the organisers of the new societies that rose from the ashes were not the people, as is usually the misconception, but the propertied classes, the aristocrats, the liberals. Now, I don't mean these guys or this guy. I mean the middle and the upper classes of society. They needed a system of governing that protected their interests from the return of kings or the commoners. So, they elected representatives from amongst themselves to do it. This system was made by people of privilege for people of privilege. The system of government they instituted is complicated. Making legislation, understanding the workings of different houses, the general bureaucracy of it all is so convoluted. A representative system of government by nature relies on people who have the time and the knowledge to understand it, to participate in it. But who has this time and this knowledge? People from privileged classes in society have the resources to get involved in this system. Not the average people with day jobs and commitments. And so, there is an electoral system that gives its participants representatives to choose from that are typically from privileged backgrounds. But then I hear you say, yes, Mr. E, but we can elect someone to that system that represents us. But consider how the oligarchy, the representative government system self-perpetuates. Once you elect someone to high office, the privileges that come with that position instantly makes them unrelatable to the average person. Meaning, they are given authority and delegation, i.e. power. Power is a form of domination and hierarchy. With this power, elected representatives make decisions that will ultimately serve their interests, even when they appear to be doing it for some other selfless reason. Not because they are evil people, well, not all of them, but they do this because they want to be re-elected. They either make decisions in favour of those who support their election campaigns or for constituents who will vote them into office, not on principles alone. And so whether they are good intentioned or not, the system is corrupting. Politicians will do whatever they need to stay in power and be re-elected, and say whatever they need to convince people to vote for them. It is the job of a politician to stay in or take power. Around 150 years ago, social democracy started to become a large force in the world, and universal suffrage became a thing. Meaning, all people began to have the right to vote, rich and poor, men and women. This made the privileged classes quite nervous. But the representative system didn't vanish and get replaced by a new one. It simply adapted to survive, quite cleverly. It did this by appealing to the masses, espousing freedom and opportunity through election, but kept the same complicated system. A system that we know now was designed by the privileged and maintains levels of privilege. Sure, people got to be part of elections, but they are still constrained by work and life commitments, and importantly, don't have the time to scrutinise policies and the workings of parliaments and government. The only thing that average people participate in is a game show every few years when the best orators with the most media coverage convince the mass of people to vote for them. And they carry on serving the same interests, the interests of the privileged classes, until the next election. The truly unfortunate and absolutely devastating impact of this illusionary system is that it breeds indifference into us. We know the system doesn't work for us. We feel it intuitively. But the more we elect someone else to make decisions for us, because it's just all too confusing, the more we become detached from wanting to participate in processes that control our lives. This eventually destroys our ability to make our own constructive opinions. We just defer to politicians to make the right choices and then act all shocked when they don't. What a vicious cycle. But there are alternatives. If you like this, please give it a like and share it with someone who needs to hear this. There is much more to learn about the revolution, so please subscribe. Remember, I am, you are, we are a mystery.